This Friday and Saturday night, April 22nd and 23rd, the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra will be joined by the man, the myth, the legend, Paul Shaffer. Known for his longtime friendship with David Letterman, working as music director for the world's most dangerous band, the CBS Orchestra, Shaffer will be taking audience members through a symphonic journey through his illustrious musical life. And joining me here over Zoom, I am joined by the original Artie Fufkin, also known as Paul Shaffer. Hi, Paul. Thanks for taking the time to chat with me today.
Unbelievable. Thank you for having me. It's fun to be with you. And what's really going to be fun is being in Winnipeg this weekend. I can't wait.
Yeah. We can't wait to have you here. The late night show with David Letterman is part of my DNA. Growing up as a teenager and in my early 20s, my brother and I would sit down and watch Letterman all the time. I get a million questions I could ask about the show, but I'm going to keep it to just two and keep them brief. One, most memorable guest.
Well, you know, for me, of course, it's going to go to a musical guest.
Yeah.
And it's James Brown, hands down, especially his very first appearance back in 1982 when he played with my four-piece band. I just had a quartet at that time. Early days of the show, he brought two horns. He did two songs almost rehearsed and then decided to do a third one right on the air. And Dave said, go ahead. The whole thing was pandemonium. So that's what I think of. And besides that, I mean, so many of them that my memory isn't as good as I always thought it was. It's just too much data, too much.
And the other one question I have, watching the show like I did for many, many years, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in the pit when some of the more infamous moments happened on the Letterman show. I'm thinking here of Crispin Glover's last appearance, the Drew Barrymore thing. What did the band do, like at a camera for that?
Well, which one are you talking about? Crispin Glover. Yeah, I guess the last time he appeared. Yeah, because he really did a very high kick right at Dave's head. And no, I mean, there was nothing rehearsed about that. As far as the Drew Barrymore, you're talking about when she flashed him. And of course, we in the band had what I like to refer to as the Barrymore profile. We saw it from the side, and she loves to think about. I just did her show with my daughter recently, and we had a lot of fun talking about it. But I didn't even have that line until now. So we use everything in this business.
Okay, we're not here to talk about the Letterman show. You're here to perform with the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra this weekend. Tell me about the show. How did it come together?
Well, it came together because I was contacted by a guy named Peter Gistelnick, who was at that time running the Kalamazoo Symphony. And he said, I think you're right for this. I'll help you. And he got me, in touch with an arranger in Belgium. And I got to pick all my favorite songs that I ever wanted to do. Like if I ever got a chance to work with an orchestra, all pop, rock and roll, R&B. And boy, I've done it. This is about the fourth orchestra I have worked with. And well, this one is totally significant for me because as a child in Thunder Bay, Ontario, the Winnipeg Symphony was the very first orchestra I ever got to see. When they came to Thunder Bay, it was Fort William then. And, so talk about a full circle. Oh, and by the way, and I bring with me as my special guest, the great Valerie Simpson, who, with her late husband, Nick Ashford, wrote so many of the great anthems of rhythm and blues, like Ain't No Mountain High Enough, and Reach Out and Touch, I'm Every Woman. Yes.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? And she does all of them in the show, as many of them as we can get in anyway. And then we do It's Raining Men, which she does with me. That's one that I had a little something to do with.
Yeah.
And all of this with the wonderful Winnipeg Symphony, which is world renowned for their special sound. I can, they had it back then in about 1960, I don't know, 5 or whenever it was that they came to Thunder Bay. And I know they got it, can't wait to work with them now.
So how did you meet the Motown legend Valerie Simpson? How did that partnership start out?
I was getting started in New York and in the recording business, doing studio work and stuff, doing a lot of commercials too, jingles. And she was such a great singer, used to make herself available to do sessions. She'd sing on your record. She sang on Tie Yellow Ribbon. People don't know that. Things like that. And commercials. And she came in to sing a commercial that I had arranged. And I remembered, I don't think the product ever came out because it was called Dermassage. And her job was to sing about, if your skin is rough, soothe a little bit of Dermassage on it. She put so much feeling into it. I said, Valerie, save it. It's just a commercial. And we hit it off. We hit it off, and we've been friends ever since.
Oh, wow. So the show this weekend, it's my understanding is it's not only tunes, it's not only songs, but it's also stories about your life. When you put the show together, did you have any specific moments in your life that you wanted to cover in the show? How did that process work?
Well, I just started, I probably started thinking of myself as a kid in Thunder Bay, starting piano lessons, but really learning to play pop and rock by ear myself. And the theme from the movie Exodus came out around that time. And it was just a killer. And I learned it, simply on the piano, just by ear. Right. And I said, well, now I could play it right with a symphony orchestra. And so that was, one thing led to another. I don't want to give too much away in the show, but it turns out the guy who wrote Exodus had a very famous son, and I talk about all that in the show. And I don't know, Valerie had done some touring with me already when I did a little bit with my Letterman band, and she's just the best in any way. And she's got such, when she re-envisioned her song, Ain't No Mountain High Enough for Diana Ross, it was all symphonic. And I just said, well, that Valerie could open with that, So it was like, well, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And then I had to do the Lonely Surfer with a full orchestra. Crazy ideas like that. And it kind of fell together.
You touched on this a little bit earlier. Can you talk about who did the orchestral arrangements and just talk about him and how that came about?
Yes. And his name is Daniel Capoletti. And I mentioned earlier that this gentleman from the Kalamazoo Symphony, Peter, hooked me up with this gentleman, Daniel, in Belgium. Peter himself is Belgian. Daniel worked over there. Daniel may have been in Italy at the time. I don't know, these nutty Europeans. But whatever it was, I had conversations with him. I would send him the records, the original recordings of these things that I wanted to do. We would talk about them. He arranged them using a computer program that not only wrote it out, but could play it for me with it. And he would send me those. And I could hear them. And then, I could talk to Daniel about it, make some changes, figure out endings for them instead of fades, That was the process.
That's amazing. I'm going to ask about the tune, It's Raining Men.
Yes,
when you wrote that tune with Paul Jabara, am I saying
Paul
that right?
Paul Jabara, that's right.
Did you think that tune would have the lasting power it has to this day, and it's become such an anthem? When you wrote it back in the 80s, did you think it would have that kind of staying power?
No, of course, I would never have thought so. It did come very quickly in an afternoon with Paul, me at the piano. That's really all it took us. And when we made a demo of it, the demo was just piano and voice. Nowadays, you got to have a full production to present to anybody. But in those days, you could still get away just piano and voice. And a wonderful woman named Lita Galloway sang our demo for us with a low, scary voice. And something about it had, I don't know, something. It had something going for it that I couldn't understand, but it did have a little something. And I played it for my wife. We weren't married at the time. Honey, what do you think about this? And she just, what are you, crazy? She didn't exactly hear it. now, it pays the phone bill. She hears it a little bit better now.
Right,
But
right.
so there's your answer, and way too much information.
Oh, that's great. Paul, it's been such a treat to chat with you today. What are you hoping audiences will take away from the shows this weekend?
Well, I don't know, what the takeaway it might be. They're certainly going to see a chap from 500 miles east, Thunder Bay,
Right.
just living his absolute dream and going full circle and coming back and playing with the first orchestra he ever heard in his life. And I'm just giddy with fun and enjoyment. And nobody said to me, "Don't play this song, only play," and nobody said you can't do it. It was all my favorite stuff. So with that,
Amazing.
I present myself to the people of Winnipeg, Manitoba.
Paul, it's going to be great. It's going to be a great show this Friday and Saturday night at the Centennial Concert Hall. Paul Shaffer,
Thanks for
thanks for
having me.
chatting.
Thank you. Hope to see you soon.